Hello and welcome to another super exciting Fandabidozy introduction to OpenInsight for Web, or O4W, training video. At least this one is going to be more exciting than the previous two, which were fairly general. My name is Martin and the topic of this lesson is going to be form creation, and we're going to be creating two forms. And they're both going to be based on the forms that we created in our desktop-based application in the desktop tutorial series. We're going to have our patient entry window, in which we're going to have our patient entry, image, comments, and consultations. And we'll be able to double click on a consultation to bring up that consultation in an appointments window. So that's what we're going to be replicating during this lesson. Obviously they'll be replicated for use on the web, except I'm going to do it in a slightly different order. Previously we did the patient window and then the appointments window. Because the appointments window can be launched from the patient window, the two are linked, I'm going to create the appointments one first, so it is then available to link from the other window. In addition, it's probably the easier of the two windows, so it makes sense to start with something easy and work up to something just a little bit more complicated. That said, we're not going to be doing anything in code, so this is all very easy. Now, this is the first time that I have run up O4W today, so I need to go into my engine server and I need to run that. I'm running it from the services within Windows. Just bring this down, you'll be able to see. There we go. You could run it from the command line, so just cmd and then you get that little DOS window and you can do the Java jar as explained in the quick start guide tutorial. The benefit in that is you can put the switch in that I think enables you to be able to see what's going on, which is great for developers. It's a bit advanced for me, so I tend to just do it this way. It's easier. And I've just started IIS, my web server. Okay, so once we're done, let's run up O4W itself and we'll log in. Right, we want to create a form, so if we look under the O4W form menu here, you can see create and modify, but we want to create a new one. So we'll select that, and from here we can select an existing O4W form. Now I haven't got any, so there's none to choose from. Or we can define a new one, or I can select an existing OI form to convert. Now we're going to cheat a little bit. For this form we are going to select the MP apps form, the one that we created in our desktop system, and we'll just click next to continue. Now O4W is going to suggest a number of prompts for us, many of which we'll keep and some of which we will need to update. For instance, the description for the form, I don't particularly like auto converted from MP apps, so I'm going to change that simply to appointments. This table that we're going to be working against is MP apps, happy with that. And the title of appointments, well, let's just change that to appointment diary. Now I have run through this previously, so sometimes you'll see that the system is prompting me for some of the values, and where they are there then I'll just select those. The HTML template I'm going to use is default and the background image is nothing. Our header, I'm okay with appointments, but the footer I want to put in the copyright. Let's just select that one. Background colour and foreground colour I'm happy with, but the links I need to change. We'll have blue and we'll have purple for visited. I'm going to align my form left, it could be centre or right if I wanted to, and my own personal preference is not to have borders around the cells. You can turn that on or off and see which you prefer. The link text, these are links that will appear at the bottom of the screen, so I'm just going to have the standard revsoft.co.uk website and just a link out to that website, and then when we're done we can just click next to continue. That takes us to our behavior tab, and O4W is prompting us to retrieve our records by OI form mode. There are a number of options that you can choose: pick list, entering a key, searching and the like, but I'm happy to go with OI form mode in this instance. It's going to give me QBF and a few other bits and pieces. If you've got a multi-part key, then you can define how many parts of the key. I'm going to leave that as 0 for now. And which menu do we want to display on our page? Well, because we created our skeleton menu in the previous lesson, I can choose that here. That's the benefit of having that skeleton menu created. The form permissions is picked up from the configuration window. I've just got the default and I don't really want to set any permissions, but I could if I want to. And yes, we will allow the user to create new records, but we're going to use the counter as key, and O4W goes away and populates these 3 new controls that have appeared to show that the counter table is the MP apps dictionary, the counter record is %SK%, and the counter field is 1. That should all be very familiar to us from the desktop development. Do I want to allow the user to retry on locked or record ID conflicts? Yes, we'll do that. Yes, I want to create a commuter module. It makes sense to do that. And I want to allow editing, I want to allow deletion, and we'll have the save, delete and next buttons at the top of the page as well. The events to call in the commuter module, I'm not going to go through every single prompt during this video series because it will bore us all to tears, and it's just really overkill. I will leave the formal O4W training from Revelation to cover those specifics, so you'll forgive me if we just jump a number of bits and pieces. I just select all when I'm doing my demos, just so that they're all available to us. So just select them and we'll carry on. Once we're happy, we'll click next, and that will take us to the groups. And basically we want to have 2 groups. We want to have patient info, and we'll give that a title of patient details, and the rest of the options here we can just leave as the default. So we don't want to have add and delete buttons and insert rows and things. We'll add another association, and that is going to be appointments. Select it, that's better. And we are going to have all our prompts on the one page. We're not actually going to use tabs on this particular form. We will in the next one. So let's leave the checkbox checked. Leave the form name as it is, because there aren't any tabs, so that doesn't really matter too much. There are no additional tab names, and under user fields, O4W has created a number of individual items which we will just leave. There are buttons for the QBF, for exiting and clearing, and these will all make a little bit more sense to us in a few moments. So click next when we are finished, and that will then take us to the fields tab. The first option is the selection fields. Well, we'll probably want to select on names, so let's just move that into there for the moment. We then want to have a look at the fields that we wish to display, and O4W pretty much brings in all of the fields within the system. Now, I don't want a lot of these to display. For instance, group 2 I don't want, these buttons I don't want, so I'll just remove those. The QBF buttons, I don't want those buttons, so we'll remove those. I do want ID. Let's remove that button and the group 1. I want to have ID linked to patient name, app date, button 16 can go, app time, doctor, summary, notes. So I'm pretty much happy with those. So we'll go to display in association, and within the patient info we're going to want to have the ID, so we'll select that and move that over, link to patient, and also name. Now I've done those individually. You can actually do them as a block. So for instance, for appointments I want to have the application date. Now if I was to select one and do shift and select summary, it will select all of them. If I use the control key, then I can select individuals. So app date, app time, doctor, and summary, we'll have those in that order. And we'll also have notes. Now don't worry too much about the order that you're bringing these in, because we can move them around later on. I just tend to do it in that order while I'm working through, because there's only a few items that I'm selecting, but if you've got a longer list, don't worry about that at all. Once we're done, we'll click next. It misses the search screen because obviously we've got the QBF and we're in OI form mode. We'll actually look at the search screen in the next section where we do the patient form, and it jumps straight to the selection. We can change the number of lines to display on a page. I'm going to leave this as 10 because I've reduced the size of my browser to suit the YouTube video. However, if I was doing that for a normal screen, I tend to take it up to 20, so there's a bit of a longer list. But I do in here want to change the label so that it's green to keep it pretty much the same as the rest of my application. And I normally have my labels upper and lowercase, so I'll change that. And we'll just put a column width of 100 in there. When we're done, we'll click next, and we're taken to the edit and display screen. Now, this is quite a busy one. Just move that up slightly so you can see. Now in here, the first thing we'll look at are the labels. So the appointment number we're happy with, patient number we're happy with. For some reason name has not come across, so we'll put name in there. The appointment date, well, that's just date, so let's just change that to appointment date so that it makes a bit more sense. We'll Control C and paste that into there for appointment time, and then doctor summary and notes I'm happy with. I've been using green for my labels, so let's change the background color to green. I'm happy for them to be left and side by side, but I do want to change them all, so I'll check that box, which means that all of the label properties, including alignment, colors, everything will be the same. So be very careful if you do use that, but if you do want them all to be the same, then that is a really nice shortcut. The dates by default are right aligned, however I prefer to have them left aligned. For me it just looks a bit neater. O4W is correct in right aligning, but that's just a personal preference. ID, I'm happy with the text box, but you can't size the labels in the current version. So I'm just going to set the input size for this to be 40. So this is the data entry part, which is then going to mean that things look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing in my opinion anyway. The link to patient, as a patient number, we want to have a lookup for our users. So under the value links and pop-up, we're going to choose an OpenInsight pop-up, and we then get a little pick list, and the one that we want to use is the MP pop-up hospital number. And we'll just have a title, so we'll call it patient number, I think. And I don't want to worry about the widths and the height at the moment. I can come back and change those if I want to, and I don't want to return multiple values, etc. So we'll just click save to save those changes. On the summary, I just happen to know that the text box is going to be fairly small. I think it's about 20, so we'll take that up to 40. And also for notes for the text area, now it's selected a multi-line text, which is great because we want to have multi-line in here, but again we might want to make this a little bit wider, so the text area width will make 100. When we're done, we'll click next, and then that takes us to the completion window. This window is prompting us for the name of the commuter module. I usually accept defaults. I would advise that you do the same, but if you do want to change it, then you can do so. And because this is the first time we've obviously been here, it's asking us whether we want to automatically generate the commuter module shell, which we do. So we'll click save, and then we can test run the form. Okay, so this is our form. It's prompting us for the next appointment number. I've got the ability to run a lookup. So this is our little pop-up that came up. So I could grab Sam, for instance, and I've got an appointment date in here, an appointment time. Now I'd need to put something in there, which would be nice if that was a picker, so we might want to change that. And the doctors, I've got a drop down here, but I've got nothing showing, so we might want to have a look at that as well. In addition, these labels have been squidged up a bit, so we might want to have a look at that at some point. We've got our link to revsoft.co.uk at the bottom, and I've also got the ability to have a file menu with new, save, reset and delete, and QBF. So QBF, we could initialize the form, which will put us into QBF mode, and then I could say give me all appointments that are greater than 5, and we'll execute that. and then I can see that I've got this pick list. Okay, the pick list has gone a bit weird because all I've got is name. I might want to have a few more options in here, like some summary information, dates, times, etc. So we might want to go away and fix that up as well. But if I was to select on my name, then it will come back with that particular record. So there's a little bit of fixing up to be done there. So let's go away and have a look at fixing those items now. Well, you'll also notice here that the appointment time is the internal time format, so you might want to have a look at that as well. So let's just close out of here and we'll go back to the form. The first thing we need to do is under fields. With the selection, we selected name, we only got name, so let's add in a few more options. We'll choose the appointment date, the appointment time, appointment date, appointment time, doctor, and we'll have the summary. Just see what that gives us. So let's add those in. And then on the edit display option, we needed to change the time. So for the application app date, first of all, let's look at this one. We'll change that to a date picker, and the default value for a new record we'll have as the current date. So we'll save that. And then for the time, we'll change that to a time picker, and the conversion we'll have as MTH, and the default will set to the current time. So we'll save that and we'll go next, save, and we'll test run and see what we get this time. Okay, this time if we do QBF and initialize, the appointment number greater than 5, and we execute that, then this time we get a bit more information so we can see the names. Okay, the headings are not quite correct. I need to change the color of those if I wanted to, but I could select myself in here and that will then return back that record. If I was to click on the appointment date edit line, then I get a date picker come up, so I can choose a date, and also I can click on the time button to get the current time, so 9 minutes past 2 in the afternoon. So that all looks pretty okay at the moment, but I'd quite like to just look at this so that I haven't got appointment date wrapped. So let's just close out of there, edit and display, and remember we can't size the labels, but what we can do is we can go into notes and I set that to 100. So let's just try 75 and see what happens. We'll save that. We'll then go back to the completion, save, test run, and that looks a lot better now. I mean, we could actually move the appointment number to push this over so it's more in line, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. You know, this form looks okay for what we need at the moment. Right, I cheated a little bit. I've just gone away and I've set the summary to a width of 60 and the notes to a width of 60, just so that you know, these labels are a little bit more in line. It's a bit more aesthetically pleasing. But I'm going to take a break from the forms now. This is going to be Forms Part 1. Forms Part 2 we'll do after the next lesson, which will be the patient entry window. The reason for that is the doctor, I can't actually bring in the doctor's names, and because there isn't anything specific in O4W that's going to help me to do that, I need to drop into the desktop system and actually create some lookup tables. And that's going to be the topic for the next lesson. So thanks for your time right now, and I'll see you in the next lesson very soon. Take care. Bye bye.